The sun is the source of energy for all life on Earth. Without the sun shining, there would not be any living thing on Earth, and even Earth would just be some space dust. We would just be space dust floating through the space. After discussing what could make us extinct, let's now discuss what can cause the sun to disappear or get destroyed. Really, there are two parts to this idea, and both of them need to be discussed. The first part is the ways the sun can get destroyed, and the second part would be the effect such an event would have on Earth and subsequently on us. It's going to be a wild ride, because not only we will consider the plausible ways of the sun getting dark, but some more fascinating ways too. So relax, get comfortable, and pay attention. Option 1. The first and most likely scenario in which our sun gets destroyed is if it uses its fuel supply. You'd think that a sun is a giant ball of gas, but no, that's what Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are. The sun isn't even a burning ball of gas. As you'd expect, it's a bit more complicated than that. There's a lot of gases in the sun, but it burning is not what releases so much energy. I don't want to get into too many details, because that would be boring and you don't even need all of those details to understand the basics. There are a few ways that sun creates and emits energy. By far, the biggest way of creating energy consists of several steps. The first two protons combine to make what's called positron and neutron, and deuterium atom. That last one is a hydrogen atom with one neutron and one proton. Then a proton and a deuterium atom combine to form a helium-3 atom and a gamma ray. And after that, two helium-3 atoms combine to form a helium-4 atom and two protons. By doing this not-so-complicated reaction, the sun releases more than 80% of its energy. So basically the sun is a humongous nuclear reactor that detonates billions of tsar nuclear bombs every single second. If I did a good job at explaining the energy-making business of the sun, then you at least remembered that for the sun to create the major of its energy, it needs to use a lot of hydrogen atoms. Even though there are a lot of atoms, even in 1 cubic meters worth of helium, and the sun is a lot more than 1 cubic meter of helium, eventually even that will deplete, and the sun will have no more fuel to continue operating as it does right now. Whenever that happens, the same thing will happen that happens when a hot air balloon runs out of helium. It will just contract under its weight. Before turning into a white dwarf, which will be the next phase of the sun's existence, it will first explode and combust. The surface of the sun will reach well into the outer space of our solar system. So at some point, the Earth will be inside of the sun, and as you can imagine, by that point, no living thing will survive. Humanity will survive only if we go outside of our solar system by that point. When will this happen? The estimates vary widely. Some say the sun will burn out in about 5 billion years, others say that it will happen in the next 100 million years. So, to be extremely pessimistic, or as some call it realistic, let's say that the sun will burn us to death in just 1 million years. Sure, compared to the sun's current estimated age, which is about 4.5 billion years, 1 million years is nothing. But if we compare that to the humanity's age, that's when we get to the fun part. If we look at humanity's development, 1 million years from now, we can't even fathom what we might be able to do. Just over 100 years ago, we thought that it would take millions of years to make a vehicle that would fly. Just 60 years later, we went to the moon. And in 10 or 20 years, we will visit Mars as well. So, just imagine what can happen in just around 1,000 years, let alone 1 million years. So, even by the realistic estimates, some part of humanity will survive somewhere in the universe. Option 2. Now that the lame option has been explained, let's go a bit crazy. And let's say that instead of the sun dying of natural causes, it is instead killed. Let me introduce you to the supernova. You probably already heard the name supernova before, but you aren't certain of what it is exactly. So, to explain it simply, do you remember how the sun works? Just like a hot air balloon. Now, imagine what would happen if gas was leaking into the house and it suddenly ignited. Boom! That's basically what supernova is. Our sun isn't big enough to suddenly explode. However, you have seen a reaction of supernova. It has these two beams coming from opposite sides of the star. So what am I proposing is, what if one of those beams hits straight to our sun? It's not impossible to happen, but a bit unlikely. So what if that happens? First, it would take a long time for an energy beam to reach us. Even if the closest star Sirius went supernova, it would still take years to reach our sun. But let's say that a star went supernova a long time ago and it hits straight in the middle of the sun. What happens next? Well, the sun wouldn't necessarily get destroyed, but it will surely make the core of the sun unstable. What happens to the battery if you force it to gain more energy than it can contain? If that is the logic we're going with, then the supernova can potentially force our sun to do what it did in option 1. So, if we're astronomically unlucky, our sun might be forced into early retirement by the most precise energy blast in the universe. How's that for the end of the world? If we're that unlucky, we kinda deserve to die, don't we? Option 3. If the last option requires astronomical luck, this option that will destroy the sun requires a billionaire that hates the sun and a few genius scientists. The thing I have in mind is antimatter. That's exactly what you think it is, the exact opposite of matter. A few years ago, we didn't even know it existed. It would be really hard to conceptualize what exactly antimatter is, since we barely provide that it exists. What you need to know about antimatter is that when it comes into contact with the normal matter, the two opposite particles crash into each other, which creates a massive explosion while emitting vast amounts of pure radiation. So, all we need is a billionaire who provides enough funding, a team of genius scientists, and a lot of time. Given enough time, the technology for gathering enough antimatter could develop, and giving enough willpower and the laws of physics giving us their permission, we could theoretically weaponize the antimatter. If we consider that just 1 gram of antimatter colliding with normal matter can create an explosion big enough to be compared to a small asteroid, if you have seen our last video, you know that even a small asteroid around 700 meters in diameter can devastate the whole Earth. Then, using that as a basis, 10 grams of antimatter can easily reduce the whole Earth to ashes. So, a kilogram of antimatter can destroy Neptune, for example. Then, if we scale that up to the Sun, about 1 ton of antimatter colliding with a ton of normal matter can destroy it. If not destroyed, it could certainly make it unstable and disrupt its established career, which could lead to option 1 once again. And from there, you know what follows. So, a weaponized IPBM, which stands for Interplanetary Ballistic Missile, was sent straight to the Sun. You can only sit down and imagine the devastation that powerful bomb can cause even to something as huge as the Sun. The fate of the Earth. So, let's say one way or another, the Sun disappeared all at once. Let's say that none of those above-mentioned options happened because in those cases, we just die and the Earth gets scorched. And instead, the Sun just disappeared, just like your dad when he went to the grocery store. You might think that we would die instantly, or a bit after that. But in reality, humanity can continue living even if we lose the Sun, for at least a few more years. The Earth has enough heat in the core to keep us from freezing to death. And the Earth's gravity isn't going anywhere either. So, we have essential air and heat that keeps us alive. But what about the food? We do need energy from the sun to grow our crops. However, it's not necessary. If we can turn a nuclear reactor into a shining beacon, we can channel the energy into a specific spot on the land and keep some amount of crops growing, and since the sun will be gone, we could grow the crops all year round. The only unsolved problem the disappearance of the sun can cause is the darkness, which would make life that bit greater. Since the Earth wouldn't have the sun to keep us on our way, we would venture outside of the solar system, or rather, just the system at this point. That will happen if we don't get hit by a giant asteroid on our way to the open space. Since this video is quite a bit theoretical already, let's give it a happy ending and say that given enough astronomical luck, the Earth could eventually end up in a grip of another star. It could take decades, but it is theoretically possible that at some point Earth reaches another solar system and becomes its adopted sun. Now, wouldn't that be amazing premise for a movie? I think it would be. Anyways, that's the last crazy theory of this video. If anything, I can guarantee that we will continue providing these types of crazy videos. You can support us by subscribing and slapping that like button. But wait, there is one more way that sun could be utterly destroyed. To see what other plausible events could destroy our sun, you only need to wait and see our next video. Thank you for watching, and we will meet in the next one. Until then, have a peaceful day.